Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, September 9th. Over the next few days, we will have some changes to the weather. First, we have some breezy winds today remaining over parts of central and eastern Idaho into Wyoming, and then also on Saturday across the Snake River Plain, and then today into northeast Utah. These winds will generally be of an easterly direction, so a little bit of a direction change going through the next couple of days. However, we do have moisture moving up from the south from the remnants of Hurricane K. This moisture will move into the southern areas of the Great Basin again today, and then push a little bit further north on Saturday into central areas, and then by Sunday be located across much of Nevada into southern and western Utah. These thunderstorms will certainly be on the wetter side as moisture really increases from the tropics. However, we have lots of smoke in the area. We're pretty much surrounded by fires both within our geographic area and outside, so we will see smoke continuing to move across Idaho, northern and western Nevada, and also into northern Utah the next couple of days. Very similar conditions at the surface and aloft. Over the last 24 hours, we saw scattered thunderstorms over southern areas of the Great Basin, with some storms also up into the Uintas in Utah, and then also a cluster of lightning in eastern Idaho going into Wyoming. These thunderstorms were on the wetter side over southern areas and also produced some wetting rains up into far eastern Idaho into western Wyoming. Great Basin fire activity continues to increase with smaller fires, also some new large fires up north into Idaho. Over the last 7 to 14 days, still dry conditions continue with the exception of the moisture moving up into the southern areas yesterday, but we will see again moisture increasing as we go through the next week. Our fuel conditions have moderated just a hair up in Idaho. They have come down but are still at record levels for the time of year, so expect extremely high fire danger, especially across the northern half of the Great Basin and into western areas that have remained dry and are also at record levels. Many of these areas, especially over the northern third of the Great Basin into Idaho, Wyoming, parts of northern Nevada, these are the highest fire danger we've seen all season. 100-hour fuel moisture still critical across most areas, except where we saw some moisture move up from the south. The satellite loop from this morning shows the exiting cold front to our east and some remaining north winds, which will also be shifting to the east eventually over the next 2 days. Also, you can see Hurricane K off the Baja coast. That is the moisture that will be pushed up into the Great Basin over the next several days. Here's a visible look at our smoke conditions across the area. You can see really smoke in all areas of California, the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, and into much of the northern half of Nevada and into northern Utah and Wyoming. So really just blanketed with smoke coming from all directions. Looking at the weather for today, we still have very dry air in place. Again, we will continue with those northerly winds, breezy today in northern areas of the Great Basin. You can see that moisture pushing north from Hurricane K. So again, no major changes to our fire potential, still very critical over the northern half of the Great Basin. Relative humidity will remain in the single digits to low teens in most areas, with the exception of the far south, which will see that increase in moisture. And you can see the winds generally just breezy over the northern half of the Great Basin and over central and northeast Utah. These wind gusts will generally be in the 20s with that direction shift to the north or northeast across parts of Idaho into northern Nevada and into Utah. As we move into Saturday, still continued very dry air in place over the northern half of the Great Basin, but you can see that moisture working its way a little bit further north into probably the southern half of the Carson district. So we will see some moderation to our fire potential over southern areas of the Great Basin, but still again very dry and critical up north. Relative humidity will really increase over the southern half of Nevada into Utah and the Arizona Strip with minimum daytime humidities above 30%. But still there's a very sharp line between the very dry air and the moist air down south. So still single digits to teens over the northern half of the Great Basin. Wind gusts on Saturday, we will see more of that breezy easterly wind through the Snake River Plain and also some occasional winds further south. But with these thunderstorms, we will see some gusty outflow winds at times, which is what some of these stronger cells in central Nevada are showing. As we move into Sunday, that moisture works its way all the way up to possibly the Oregon border, but still another very dry day expected for Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah. So you can see our sharp changes to our significant fire potential map. Certainly a decrease in fire danger gradually over the next few days going into western and northwest Nevada, but still critical in Idaho. On Sunday, those single-digit relative humidities remain across Idaho, but you can see the increase in moisture coming now up to the Interstate 80 corridor. Winds on Sunday will remain generally light across the region. However, with thunderstorms, certainly expect gusty outflow winds. The forecast amount of precipitation, the heaviest precipitation will remain in the far south, with more scattered areas of precipitation into central and northwest Nevada. Going into Monday, this is really our first day where we will see some of that moisture make its way north up into Idaho. May only affect parts of southwest Idaho with more cloud cover for our fires in central Idaho. So still, again, that moderate risk of elevated fire potential in Idaho on Monday. But once we move into Tuesday, towards the middle of the week is where we will see better chances of moisture across Idaho, especially over eastern Idaho and into parts of southern Idaho going towards the middle of the week, as this moisture is now interacting with a trough of low pressure moving into the west coast. So we will see continuing decrease in temperatures going into next week along with that increased moisture. And you can see our significant fire potential map. We are showing some decreases in fire danger going towards the middle of next week, even for Idaho. And then that moisture remains in place for Thursday. The models have been coming in a little bit wetter with this moisture push and the interaction of the trough by the middle of next week. So that is certainly hopeful that we'll see some areas of wetting rain, certainly some elevated relative humidity and cloud cover, but those heavier wetting rains will it remains to be seen exactly where those set up. But right now it is looking like a decrease in fire danger by mid next week. And the 7-day total precip, you can see the best chances of significant widespread wetting rains will be in Nevada. Also, as we get towards the middle of next week, towards northern Utah, eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, certainly the better chances up north to see more widespread wetting rains, but certainly do expect to see some of those wetting rains further west where it's certainly needed in our fires in central Idaho. But again, we'll keep watching this and see how this evolves over the next week. The 8 to 14-day outlook from September 16th through the 22nd shows still cooler temperatures and above normal precipitation for the northern half of the Great Basin, as even after the middle of next week, we might see a few days of drying, but then we have more moisture potentially moving in. So this is all good news, and certainly we'll be watching this period closely for that increase in moisture. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.